Day to remember for the rest of your lives.
There's a great promise for all of you.
The Pro Football Hall of Fame and Extreme Networks present the Heart of a Hall of Famer program. With nearly 100 Hall of Famers participating, we have reached 48 states around this country, sharing the message that football is more than a game and can teach Americans how to huddle up during a time when we need to be united.
It's time for America to take a real deep dive. Not at no one else, but at yourself individually. If you want to change America, don't brush your teeth with your head down. Look at who you are and be the example. Be the example.
An opportunity to meet and learn from one of the greatest football players of all time. But more than that, the chance to see that their Hall of Fame life wasn't given to them. Single-parent homes, drug-infested neighborhoods, and poverty.
I grew up in a neighborhood that was considered one of the worst in America, and the household I grew up in was one of the worst in that neighborhood. By the time I was 20 years old, I knew at least 30 friends or family members who had lost their lives. Football became like a second parent to me. It taught me the things that my father wasn't there to teach me, and that my mother, as a struggling, single-parent woman, just didn't know to teach me.
But they learn how to live a life of character before pursuing their football careers. Today, you will learn you can do the same that they once did. Making good decisions can lead to a prosperous life both on and off the field. Your game for life has already begun. It's your decision whether or not you want to be a successful student, son, daughter, brother, or sister.
Every one of you can have a Hall of Fame life, whether or not you play football. You can be as great as you want to be. The Hall of Fame is all about integrity, character, and excellence. You have the opportunity to represent yourself that way. You determine your character.
Welcome to a once-in-a-lifetime program, The Heart of a Hall of Famer.
Did a little homework, and this is my 20th enshrinement ceremonies here at the Professional Football Hall of Fame. And I can tell you that the view up here is better than the first 19. This is an entirely new look to this ceremony, and I can tell you it looks pretty swell from up here. I was going to start this off like a meeting by just saying my name is Dan and I'm from Canton. And I am, and I'm proud of it. I'm proud to join Marion Motley and Alan Page and Lenny Dawson and Paul Brown to become the 5th person from Stark County that enters this hallowed hall. I'll take my place between Ditka and Dawson alphabetically. Every now and then that Michigan education shows off. It was my father who brought me here in 1962 to watch this building being dedicated. It was my father that brought me to every Hall of Fame game. It was my dad who went to every one of my high school games, and it was my father who stood with me and watched me grow. My dad died 15 years ago, and all I can think about is how much he would enjoy this, how much he would enjoy seeing his baby boy go into the Professional Football Hall of Fame. And Dad, all I can tell you is I hope I honor you by being here today. Thank you. God bless.
And with that, welcome to another edition of the Pro Football Hall of Fame's Heart of a Hall of Famer series, powered by our great partners at Extreme Networks. My name is Jake Gray, and I'm the Youth and Education Manager here at the Pro Football Hall of Fame. And we are super excited today to have special guest, Gold Jacket Hall of Famer, Cantonian, Mr. Dan Dierdorf, as part of our program today. So we are super excited to see where this program goes, all the great questions all of our students have today. But before we get started and we turn things over to Dan for some opening remarks, I just want to talk a little bit about the Pro Football Hall of Fame. Our mission here at the Pro Football Hall of Fame is to honor the heroes of the game, to preserve its history, to promote its values, and to celebrate excellence everywhere. And those values we promote are those of commitment, integrity, courage, respect, and excellence. All of the values that play an important role in making you a Hall of Famer on the field, but more importantly, a Hall of Famer off the field. It makes you a better father, a better son, a better member of your community, a better teammate, a better student. All those values play a super important role in making you the best, whatever you put in there, insert whatever you want to, that you can be. I'm excited today, and I hopefully everybody out there watching today is as well, to learn a little bit about Mr. Dierdorf's career, both on and off the field, some of the challenges he faces, how his was persevered through adversity, some character qualities, and learn a little bit about Mr. Dierdorf's career on the field as well. Some thank yous to pass out before we turn things over. First and foremost, I'd like to thank our great partners at Extreme Networks for everything they do for us here at the Pro Football Hall of Fame. We couldn't do what we do without them. And then they do a lot of great work for schools and universities and NFL organizations across the country as well. So thank you so much for your support for this awesome program. Second, I'd like to thank our teachers and administrators for allowing us to come into your classroom today. I know it's a crazy time with e-learning, learning at home, learning at school in the classroom. So we appreciate you allowing to come into your classroom today to teach you a little bit about the game of football and how important those values are. So lastly, I'd like to thank our students. Without you guys here today, this program doesn't take place. As I said before, we're excited to see the questions that you have prepared. I know that some students out there have got some great questions ready to go. So I'm excited to hear what those are. If you're watching us on Facebook Live, we thank you so much for tuning back in. You're in for another excellent program. If you are, though, and you have a question for us here for this program, feel free to put it in the comment section. Put your name, your school, where you're from, and have you ask your question, and we'll do our best to get that in as part of the program. So without further ado, I'd like to turn things over to our special guest, Mr. Dan Dierdorf. Dan, welcome. Thank you for being a part of our program today.
Well, thank you, Jacob, and good morning or good afternoon, depending upon where you are today. I'm in St. Louis, Missouri, so it's still morning here, but I'm so delighted to take part in this program because the core values at the Pro Football Hall of Fame are something that are near and dear to me. You saw in that introductory video some Hall of Famers like Ray Lewis and others talking about things that help propel them to what they accomplished. And yes, I had a great deal of success as a football player. I also enjoyed a wonderful career in network television. I was a network broadcaster for 30 years, and I'm just very fortunate that football has been the most dominant aspect of my life. What those years as a broadcaster afforded me a lot of opportunities to sit down with the greats of the game. We would interview players as part of our preparation and getting ready for a game. We'd talk to the head coach of that team, and every time I'd ask him about such and such a player and how was he doing and how was he playing, and sooner or later the coach would mention something that was a common theme, and it was he would say something and it always came down to this. He'd say, the game is really important to him. And, that just a couple words strung together. And, but you have to ask the question, and I'm going to ask each and every one of you the rhetorical question. What's important to you? How much does it mean to you to be successful? Because if it's not important to you, life is going to be hard. You have got to find things that you care about, that are important to you, and something that will make it worth the effort. And how important is an education to you? Will someone look at you and look at your success in the classroom and say, well, it's pretty obvious. It's really important to Sally. It's really important to Bill. I mean, look how hard he works. And hard work and finding something that's important to you is really going to be critical in you finding a pathway in life that is really going to be enjoyable and satisfying for you. Yes, the Hall of Fame believes in some words like commitment and integrity and courage, respect, and excellence. They're just words on a piece of paper unless you decide to apply them in your everyday life. And by the way, the video you saw of my induction ceremony, when you're looking at me now and you go, oh my God, what happened to that guy? That was 25 years ago that I stood on the steps of the Hall of Fame in Canton, Ohio. And I know we've got some schools from Canton here today. So, and a very special shout out to all of you. My hometown, Canton, Ohio, born and raised, and glad of it. So, rather than just being lectured by Grandpa here today, I'm much more interested in what a lot of you have to say and steer me in a direction. And if I've got something to say, I'll say it. But again, I'm delighted to be here with you today. Thanks for taking the time. It's really rewarding for me to see the young people like this that are invested in where they're going and invested in their future. I can tell you, we care, and I'm glad you do as well. So Jacob, take it any direction you want to go.
That sounds great. I think I'll start. And you mentioned those 5 values: commitment, integrity, courage, respect, and excellence. And they all have a huge role in, like we said in the beginning, in your life on the football field and your life off the field. Can you kind of give an example of how you took a value like that you learned in the game of football and then applied it to your life off the field, whether it be as a broadcaster, a family member, a member of the community? Were you able to take those values and life lessons you learned from the game and apply them to your everyday life?
Well, I was struck by someone who said at the beginning of this that Hall of Famers aren't born, they're made. And I can tell you that with me, commitment had a big part of it, because I didn't fall out of bed with this gold jacket on. I can tell you that. At Glenwood High School, which is now Glen Oak, when I was a sophomore in high school, I was the biggest guy on the team. And guess what? I didn't even get a letter. I did not letter as a sophomore in high school. When I was a senior at Glenwood, I was recruited by Woody Hayes at Ohio State University. He looked at all my game film and he elected not to even offer me a scholarship. I went on recruiting trips to Michigan State and Notre Dame. None of them offered me scholarships because there's only one reason why they don't offer somebody a scholarship. They don't think you're good enough to play at that level. And I had an opportunity to go to the University of Michigan, and it worked out. I finally grew into my body. I finally became a football player, but not until I was already in college. And what if I would have, I look back at that, and what if I would have taken the negative vibe and the negative feedback I got from Ohio State and Michigan State, and I would have just felt sorry for myself and said, well, maybe football isn't for me. It was important to me, and I stuck with it, and I applied myself. I tried to learn things, and thankfully it worked out for me. But again, do not in any stretch of the imagination put a ceiling on what you can accomplish as you sit there today. There's nothing you can't do, and I'm living proof of that.
Awesome. We're going to dive into our questions now. We're going to go to that school that holds a special place in your heart at the middle school level. We're going to go to our students there at Oakwood Middle School for our first question. So I went ahead and asked to unmute your microphone. So my folks there at Oakwood, go ahead and have a student come up to the camera, come up to the mic, and ask their question. Looks like we got somebody coming up there now. Go ahead and unmute, and then have your student ask the question. All right, looks like we got one lucky person to come up and ask a question here. All right, now they're coming. All right, now I see them. Here we go. All right, whenever you're ready, announce your name, and then go ahead and ask your question.
Ask him as a middle school player, what should I expect from you to become as I work through my football career?
My name is D'Angelo, and my question is like, what does it take to do what you guys do as like a middle school player?
So if he's, I take it that he's probably a middle school football player. So any tips, ideas, things that a middle school football player can do to better themselves on the football field, but also, you know, maybe in the classroom or off the field or at home?
Well, D'Angelo, let me tell you something. When I was in middle school and I went to Taft Junior High School before I went to Glenwood, I was afraid. I was scared. I was unsure of myself. I doubted myself. I was scared of my own shadow. But I stuck with it. Even though there were times I was tripping over my own feet, I really tried hard not to get discouraged. And if I could give you any advice at all, football is a game of fundamentals. You've got to learn the basics. So pay close attention to your coaches. Now, you know, they've got your best interests at heart, but you've got to learn the ground rules and the prerequisites for playing the game. Now, that's true whether you're talking about school, about football, or whatever it is you plan to do. Pay close attention to your teachers, to your coaches. They really, sometimes I know you get mad at them. You're going, this guy must be crazy. But let me tell you something. They do have your best interests at heart. But for me, middle school was, again, I'm glad the ceiling was a little higher for me. I certainly wouldn't be sitting here with this coat on if you looked at me in middle school. So stick with it.
I got another question coming here from Facebook. This is from Damon. Damon is a student at Vermilion High School right here in Northeast Ohio. And he said, is there one specific trait that makes a football player good or, more importantly, respectable?
Well, yes. And let me tell you what that is. It's back to what I mentioned earlier about the want to, about how important is it to you. I had 13 years in the NFL, 4 years at the University of Michigan. I had lots of teammates. And guess what? A lot of my teammates that I have the fondest memories of, and I had the most respect for, weren't necessarily the best football players. They were the guys who tried the hardest, who extended the most effort. There's something about a work ethic that when I found myself playing this game, I respected a work ethic more than I respected athletic ability. And it was my teammates that reached a height that maybe they shouldn't have athletically because they weren't the best athlete, but they got there because they outworked everybody else. That's how you gain someone's respect in the world where I come from. A leader is not necessarily the best player. A leader is the one who can make people around him better because of his work ethic. And I'm just going to tell you, because I'm talking about football, every time I say him, please know I mean him or her, because I have 3 daughters, all of whom were great athletes who loved it. And there's an athletic and a competitive spirit in the females, just as there are in the males. So again, though, to me, I respect the people who give the great effort.
All right, we're going to go now to that high school you graduated from, now called Glen Oak. Has changed names since you've been there, but we're going to go through our students there at Glen Oak High School. So I'm going to head and ask you to unmute your microphone. So go ahead and unmute that. I know we got to work on some audio stuff to make sure we don't get any feedback. So students there at Glen Oak High School, go ahead and step up to the microphone and ask your question.
Can you hear me?
Yep, we got you, Coach.
Um, my question is how often do you at all come back to this area, and if so, would you, if you were ever back in this area, be kind enough to stop in and say a few words in person to our high school? And I know we also have our head track coach back in the corner, and apparently you still hold the shot put record. So if it ever gets broken, if you'd come back in person to congratulate that kid, we really appreciate that. So thank you.
I guarantee you that the day somebody breaks my shot put record, I will be thrilled to come back and shake his hand. I think it was 60 feet 6 inches, isn't it? If memory serves me correct. But it was, hey, I come back to Canton. I don't have any family left in Canton anymore. My mom and dad are both gone. But I come back for the Hall of Fame ceremony every year. And yes, I'd be delighted to stop by Glen Oak and say hello. I was very proud of growing up in Canton, Ohio. I grew up on 36th Street between Cleveland Avenue and Harrison. Make a left turn at the Sunoco station if you're going north on Cleveland Avenue, and my house is about the 6th house down on the right-hand side. I loved growing up in Canton. My wife teases me that it was like Leave It to Beaver growing up. That I was, I have great friends who still live there. I have nothing but wonderful memories of Canton, Ohio. And just imagine what was going through my head when I got the phone call that I'd been elected to the Pro Football Hall of Fame, having grown up only a mile from the hall. And, you know, you heard what I said earlier about being at every enshrinement and watching. I used to ride my bike down there and walk through the building while it was being built. To have your life go full circle like that, it's almost overwhelming.
I'll follow up with a question there. You know, you talk about how important it is to, stay connected to your roots and to the area. For the students that are at those schools at Plain Local, and this goes for every school as well. Can you just talk a little bit about how important your time in high school was? And, was there relationships that you had with coaches or teachers that you still have today? And how important it is to, kind of soak those 4 years in that you're in high school, because, you're never going to get to have that experience again.
No, you're not. And this is, for those of you obviously in school right now, 2020 is presenting challenges that I never saw and none of us have ever seen. And so congratulations to you for persevering through some extraordinary circumstances. Not only, going to school is hard enough as it is, without the added restrictions and the how careful you have to be with COVID-19. And so I congratulate each and every one of you. I look back on my days at Glenwood High School on 44th Street as so important for me. Yes, I had my coaches, but I remember my teachers. It was a wonderful experience for me, and I grew up mentally. I grew up physically at Glenwood High School, and every time I think of it, it brings a smile to my face. I could have been a better student. I think we all can say that, unless you're straight A's. I was not straight A's, but boy, the education I got at Glenwood served me well when I got to college.
So you talk about, being able to be a kid and ride your bike. And you said in your enshrinement speech, it was a 15-minute walk from your house to the Pro Football Hall of Fame. And you were here when the building was dedicated. So, the great history that surrounds this location, this area in Northeast Ohio, specifically right here in Canton. And I talked a little bit about beginning on what we do at the Hall of Fame, our mission statement. And part of that is to honor the heroes of the game and preserve its history, both of which we do here at the Pro Football Hall of Fame, we have so much. The history of football is housed right here in Canton, Ohio. So special part of today is we actually want to show the students, part of that museum. So we have a special guest we're going to connect in here. So I'm going to send it out to Nathan Martin, who's the Youth and Education Coordinator here at the Pro Football Hall of Fame, who's in a special behind the scenes part of our museum with our special guest. So Nathan, take it away.
Yeah, Jake, thanks for sending it out here. And like Jake said, we're in a special place, kind of behind the scenes. We're down here in the archives of the Pro Football Hall of Fame because the people that come to Canton every day to visit the Pro Football Hall of Fame, they only see a small percentage of what we actually have preserved. And I'm joined today by John Kendall. I want to get his title right. He's the Director of Archives and Football Information here at the Hall. And a big part of his job is, that honoring the heroes of the game, preserving its history. So I know John's got some stuff, a little behind the scenes look at Dan Dierdorf's career. So what do you got, John?
Thanks, Nathan. So when we talk about that mission to honor the heroes of the game, preserve its history, promote its values, and celebrate excellence everywhere, I'm very blessed that with everything that I do on a day-to-day basis down here in the Ralph Wilson Jr. Pro Football Research and Preservation Center, we're really touching on every single one of those points. We're honoring the heroes of the game by preserving their legacies through their artifacts, their documents, their stories. And then through telling their stories, we're able to showcase those values that the game teaches: the commitment, the integrity, the courage, the respect, the excellence, the perseverance, all those things. And hopefully by sharing those stories, we can teach you as students or other individuals that those same values that made Dan such a great Hall of Fame player on the field, those are the same values that make you a great student, a great musician, a great husband or wife. They transcend the football field. And so, behind me or in this archive, we have over 40 million pages of documents, 6 million photographic images, about 30,000 artifacts related not just to the history of the game, but really every player, coach, and administrator who helped build this game to what it is today. So behind me, we have a lot of different artifacts and documents, game programs, and things of that nature. But Dan, as it relates to your career here, we have a jersey that you wore through your final season with the Cardinals. This is from 1983. We have your helmet that you so kindly donated to us as well, that you wore throughout your career. We have a photo collection here. This is just a sampling of hundreds of photos that we have related to your career, post-career when you were enshrined here in Canton, Ohio. There's a great photo of you pre-game, getting ready for the game to start. And then some headshots. I mean, this is a great picture of you from the University of Michigan. And then we also have media guides that give biographical and statistical information for each team. And here's one from your rookie season that showcases your biography here. They have you listed as an offensive tackle, but you were really a team first guy, right, Dan? I mean, you played all across the offensive line. Wherever the team needed you, you were willing to sacrifice a little bit of yourself for the betterment of the team. And that really showed throughout your career. And then last but not least, over here, we have a few game programs. This game program from 1971, October 3rd, is the first game that you played in. And then the Philadelphia versus the St. Louis Cardinals here at Busch Stadium on December 18th, 1983 was from the last game that you played in. So those are just a sampling of some of the things that we have to preserve your legacy here in Canton. But obviously, we'll work as hard as we can to make sure that your story is being shared for future generations to come. I just want to take this last opportunity to thank you for all you've done for the game, and thank you for all you continue to do for the Pro Football Hall of Fame.
Yeah, and I echo what John's saying there, and our thank you, and how much it means for us to be able to have the opportunity to preserve this history and this legacy that you have. And we've got a question actually for you. So we know, and you talked about it briefly, you grew up just right around the corner from the Pro Football Hall of Fame, and you were here when it was dedicated. Was being a Pro Football Hall of Famer always a goal of yours, or when you were younger, did you have other aspirations or career goals?
Well, that's a great question. And by the way, you talked about, John, me being a team player. I don't know how many other people, I'm sure I'm not the only one, but I actually started an NFL game at all 5 of the offensive line positions. I started at left tackle, left guard, center, right guard, and right tackle throughout my career. You talk about dreaming about the Hall of Fame. What was the Hall of Fame a goal of mine? And I don't want to sound trite when I say this, but some dreams they're just too big. And no, when I was in high school in Canton, Ohio, I never ever imagined myself in the Pro Football Hall of Fame. I never thought that was anything that was attainable. And I wanted to be a good player. I tried as hard as I could be, but when I was in high school, those guys in the Hall of Fame, they might as well have been on top of Mount Olympus. They were unreachable. They were the Jim Browns and the Lou Grosses of the world. To me, were just almost mythical people. And it would have taken a tremendous amount of hubris on my part to actually be in high school and think about, oh, geez, I'll be right there with them one day. No, that never happened with me.
All right, I think we're going to send it out to our next school now. We're going to send it out to Lansdale, Pennsylvania. We've got Mr. Polis's class at Hempfield High School. So I'm going to go ahead and ask them to unmute their microphone. So once you unmute, go ahead and have the student come up to the mic, come up to the camera, and go ahead and ask your question. It looks like we've got a student there ready to go. Just got to get that microphone unmuted there. All right, you should be good to go now.
Hey, Dan. One of the things I talked with my students about a lot is I kind of let them know that my memories of you, being the age I am, is more in the Monday Night Football booth. And so could you comment on one of the things I try to stress to them is the whole idea of networking and relationships. How were you able to translate your first career as a football player, making connections with people and translating that into a successful second career as a broadcaster, and just how they can use their relationships to build opportunities in the future?
Oh, great question. I was fortunate when I was still playing with the Cardinals to go to work at a radio station here in St. Louis. And that's, you just don't overnight become a broadcaster. And I spent years of learning, of taking criticism, accepting a pat on the back when things went well, but by the same token, getting a lot of constructive criticism for mistakes that I made. And you talk about networking. You have to make yourself, you have to make yourself valuable. You have to carry yourself in such a manner and be a people person that people want to be around you. You can't be disagreeable. You've got to be, I hate to say it, but a team player. You got to learn how to make yourself the person that other people want to be around, that they want to work with you, that they want you to be with them. They want you to be a part of their team, because it's all about learning how to fit in, what you can bring to the table, and how do I make myself somebody that they want to have with them. And it's all of us. You cannot survive in this world unless you are bringing something to the table that makes you attractive to someone else in terms of wanting to hire you, put you to work, and put you in an environment where your qualities will come to the surface. And, you can apply the word networking, whatever you want to call it, but it requires effort to become that person. And without it, it's going to be a tough road.
I think it's we need to have you come in and talk to all of our students we talk to about careers in the NFL, because I think that's a super cool, important piece that you need to think about when you think about, when it's time to get a career. You may not be a football player, you may not be a coach, but there's so many ways that you can create relationships that help further yourself down the road. Our next question.
I knew the football, Jacob, it has a shelf life. I mean, it's what other, how many professions can you be an old man and being shown the door at 30? And so, yeah, you've got to have a plan. You've got to have, you got to be thinking a couple steps ahead, because professional sports, while it's a lot of fun, is not a lifelong career. And so I never lost sight of the fact that the day was going to come that I was going to have to find a way to get by in this world. And for me, I was fortunate that it was broadcasting.
Absolutely. So, that's a kind of a cool transition. You talk about the end of your football career, transitioning into the broadcast booth and into a different part of the game. I want to flash back to the beginning part of your career. We got a question here from Hunter, who also goes to Vermilion High School here in Northeast Ohio. His question is, when the first play of the game happened, your first play ever in the NFL, how were you feeling? What was going through your head? So basically, what was your welcome to the NFL moment?
My first game was the first time I started was against the Dallas Cowboys, and I was playing guard, and I had to line up the entire game across from a guy by the name of Bob Lilly. And for you kids out there, Bob Lilly is a Hall of Famer. Bob Lilly is one of the greatest defensive tackles that ever lived. And I can just tell you, in my first game, I wasn't even good enough to hold him. I tried to hold him on every play, and I couldn't do it. I couldn't even tackle him and keep him from getting to our ball carrier. It was a humiliating introduction to the National Football League. And if my audition would have only lasted one game, I would have had a very short NFL career. So I started at the bottom and worked my way up.
Yeah, I think it goes to show you've got the jacket on. So something worked out throughout the career. I'm
telling you that I didn't coin the phrase, but Hall of Famers just don't fall out of bed like this. It can be a awkward, sometimes painful, step-by-step journey.
All right, we're going to send it out to our next school now for our next question. We've got Danville Elementary School from here in Ohio for our next question. So I'm going to go ahead and unmute your microphone there. You're good to go. So just have your students step up and ask their question.
My name is Silas. My question is, football is a very physical sport. How would you compare it to the pain in real life and ways of overcoming it?
Okay, well, thanks for the question. Yes, football is a very physical game, and there are issues you gotta work through just because of the trauma that it puts on your body. But let's just talk about, you mentioned about what kind of lessons for the rest of your life. Football is a game where you constantly are getting knocked down, where you are literally on the ground and you got to get up, and you break the huddle and you go to the line of scrimmage, and your job is to keep that defensive lineman from hitting your quarterback. And guess what? You gave it everything you had, and he still hit your quarterback. Now, at that point in time, you're standing there and you're looking at the guy you were supposed to block, and he's lying on top of your quarterback. And you've got a couple choices. You can either say to yourself that, well, that's it. That is never going to happen again, and go back to work. Or you feel sorry for yourself, say, I'm in over my head, and give up. Well, giving up and not applying yourself is never an option for me. It was never an option for any of the other guys in the Hall of Fame. We all made mistakes. We all failed at times in what we were trying to do, but we persevered. And that is, I don't care if you're talking about football or any aspect of your life. One of the beautiful things about athletics is that you have to commit yourself 100% to what you're trying to do. And guess what? You learn a lesson that even though you applied yourself 100% to something, you could still fall short. You know, every game, somebody is on the losing end of it, and they extended great effort. They gave it everything they had, but they still came up short. And let me tell you something, that's going to happen to every single one of you at some point in your life. And you're going to say, well, gosh, what else was I supposed to do? Well, the answer is no, there was nothing else you could do, but you have to go do it again. You have to go back to work and apply yourself once again. And that's one of the beautiful things about athletics is you learn that failing is not the end of the world. There's a lesson to be learned, and you take it and you run with it. And I'll forever be so glad that I played a sport that taught me that lesson.
We've talked so much today about, you know, all the great values and how you've learned them growing up throughout your life. And you've mentioned a few times how special it was, you know, to be from Canton, Ohio, and, you know, to take that 1 mile trip back from your house through all these different crazy turns and through your life to end up right back here in Canton, to where you got to accept this bronze bust that we've got behind us. So what we're going to do right now is we're going to send it back to Nathan Martin, the Youth and Education Coordinator here at the Pro Football Hall of Fame, who is at that location where you got to accept that bronze bust for the first time. So Nathan, go ahead and take it away.
Yeah, Jake, thanks for sending it outside here in Canton. We're on the front steps of the Pro Football Hall of Fame. As you guys can see behind me, we've got that relief sculpture that's so iconic people think of. You can see the rotunda peeking through the very top a little bit, but this is not just a special place here in Canton because it's a recognizable symbol. This area on these steps is where Mr. Dan Dierdorf gave his enshrinement speech back in 1996. He was standing right here. And this is a place where he told the crowd of fans, my name is Dan, and I'm from Canton, and I'm proud of it. And I know we've talked about it a little bit already with our students from Plain Local, and you kind of touched on it yourself, Mr. Dierdorf. But can you just one more time, the question's pretty simple. What makes Canton, Ohio so special to you and the Pro Football Hall of Fame so special to you?
Well, it first of all, the amount of pride growing up when the Hall of Fame was awarded to Canton, Ohio, and the efforts that a lot of the Canton businessmen went to make it a reality, you know, the Dick Kempthorns of the world. And I just know that how immensely proud I was, and I know my parents were, that we lived in Canton, Ohio, and we were important because we were the home of the Pro Football Hall of Fame. And at least I can only speak for me and my friends. I know that every one of us, the Hall of Fame is in our DNA. I mean, you don't go anywhere the rest of your life without someone saying, where'd you grow up? And you say, oh, Canton, Ohio. Oh, that's where the Pro Football Hall of Fame is. Canton and the Hall are synonymous with one another. I think every native son or daughter of Canton, Ohio has a little of the Hall of Fame DNA inside of them. And I can just tell you that I was always immensely proud to tell anybody I was from Canton, Ohio, and the Hall of Fame. Just take a look at, you know, unfortunately, we couldn't have an enshrinement ceremony this year, but the thousands of volunteers around the Canton area that take part in the Enshrinement Festival, and how the effort that they put in year round to support the Hall of Fame. So the answer to your question about growing up in Canton, how important was the Hall of Fame to me? Regardless of whether or not I got this jacket, the Hall of Fame is the best thing that ever happened to Canton, Ohio.
I think we would wholeheartedly agree with that fact right there. 1,000% agree with what you said there. We're gonna go back out to our school now. We're gonna go all the way up to New York, Wyoming Central Schools there. We're gonna go ahead and ask you to unmute your microphone. So go ahead and unmute your microphone. Have the students step up and go ahead and ask your question.
What's your opinion on COVID-19 affecting youth sports, and what can we learn from it?
I can just tell you that I know every part of the country is handling it differently. My heart just really just has been broken when I see kids that have lost their season, that they've, they were so much looking forward to, regardless of the sport, that they had to make a sacrifice and weren't allowed to play. And all I can hope is that by springtime, that we've got this behind us. But I can't imagine how difficult. I put myself in that position, saying, geez, you're a senior in high school or a junior in high school, and you've worked so hard to get ready for this season, and all of a sudden it's just taken away from you. And the reality is, I feel your pain, I feel your discomfort. All I can hope is that sooner rather than later, we return to some sense of normal and the kids are able to get back out on the field. I know it's different in different parts of the country, but I just can't imagine. I just put myself in that position, and I'm just heartbroken because I know I would be.
We've talked a lot about your career. I like to jump a little bit, some recent things that have taken place. You go back to 2008, you were actually the recipient of the Pete Rozelle Radio Television Award that the Hall of Fame gives out yearly, the same award that Joe Buck from Fox just won. What did that mean to you, not only as somebody in the broadcasting world, but somebody who already had a bronze bust and a gold jacket as a member of the Pro Football Hall of Fame?
Well, I was just thrilled beyond belief to win the Rozelle Award. I think there are four of us who have both. The doubleheader. It's me. I think Lenny Dawson, John Madden, and I believe Frank Gifford are the other three guys that are both in the Hall as a player or coach and a recipient of the Rozelle Award. If I'm missing somebody, I'm sure you guys will tell me. You're the keeper of the flame.
It sounds like a great list to me.
Yeah, I'm thrilled to be a part of it, and it was an exciting moment for me to be recognized for something other than my playing career. So yeah, it's something that I feel very blessed and fortunate to have won.
Now I want to jump up even sooner to, we look at the NFL today. You played your entire career with the Cardinals. Now they were in St. Louis. They weren't in Arizona where they are today, but that Arizona Cardinals team today has got two guys on their team. You might have heard of them. Everybody watching, a guy by the name of Kyler Murray and a guy by the name of DeAndre Hopkins, both who are playing very well to start the season off. So what are your thoughts on, that tandem, how well they've been playing together, and the future outlook for the organization as a whole?
Well, I can just tell you, Jacob, that you're going to get a letter from a guy named Larry Fitzgerald that you don't even mention Larry.
That's right. That's right. That's right. Yeah, you throw him in the mix too.
Oh yeah, no, it's an exciting offense, and they're my franchise. Even though they're not in St. Louis, Michael Bidwell and the Bidwell family still own the Cardinals. They have the Cardinals, by the way, are a bit of a trivia question. They're the oldest continuous franchise in the National Football League. You could win a few shekels with that. I'm not sure many people would guess that it's the Cardinals that fit that bill. But yes, Kyler Murray, DeAndre Hopkins, Larry Fitzgerald. They're an exciting team to watch, and they're off to a good start.
It's got to be an exciting time for Cardinals fans, seeing maybe their favorite moment from the season every week when those two guys are on a field. And even Fitzgerald, who, I mean, I don't have a vote or anything, but I think one day he might get to have one of those things as well.
If ever there's a sure thing, Larry Fitzgerald is a sure thing.
Looking back on your career, been through and playing 13 seasons, did you have a favorite moment from your career that kind of stands out above the others?
Well, let me tell you something. I played on a series of teams in the National Football League that weren't all that successful. In my 13 years, I think we had 5 winning seasons. And the reality is, I didn't play for one of the storied franchises like Dallas or the Dolphins or the Raiders or the Steelers. And my path to the Hall of Fame was not paved with Lombardi trophies. And, I've never won a Super Bowl, never played in a Super Bowl. And so I was one of those guys that I'm a lunch pail member of the Pro Football Hall of Fame. I didn't get elected to the Hall because somebody remembered what a great game I had in a Super Bowl. The only time I was ever at a Super Bowl was in the broadcast booth.
Still got to make it to a Super Bowl though. And, you played offensive line and, you look back at all these different Hall of Famers careers and you look into so many different statistics, fortunately as an offensive lineman, the only real statistic that is recorded is how many times you either hold somebody or you false start or anything like that. But I have a fact here in front of me that I think really speaks to how great of a career you have. In 1975, your offensive line that you played for with the Cardinals allowed only 8 sacks in 14 games. There are quarterbacks in today's league that get sacked 8 times in one game. So this just goes to show that there was so much success with your team, your how cohesive your offensive line is. And it goes back to a lot of the stuff you talked about, teamwork. So, was there some sort of higher cohesiveness between, the offensive linemen that you played for that season, your entire career? And then how did that eventually help you guys play at a higher level, allowing only 8 sacks in a year?
Well, that 8 sacks we allowed in a year, one of those sacks was actually a fake field goal where our kicker got trapped behind the line of scrimmage and they counted that as a sack. Not that I'm still angry about it, but I'm still angry about it. The funny thing about that season was halfway through the season, we had not allowed a single sack. In the first 7 games of the season, our quarterback, Jim Hart, had yet to be sacked. So it was an extraordinary year for us. And the great thing about it is that offensive line play is it's a coordinated exercise. There's 5 of us. And if one of us fails, it doesn't matter how well the other 4 did, it's a failure. And so you really do learn the value of propping up your teammates, of realizing that the collective good is all that matters. And playing on the offensive line, I loved it. I enjoyed it. But that was a magical year in 75. That was, I'll never forget how much success we had and how much I enjoyed it.
Absolutely. All right, we're going to go back out. We got time for just a few more questions. So we're going to send it back out to your alma mater, Glen Oak High School, for a last question from them. So
all right, Glen Oak.
Folks there at Glen Oak, go ahead and have a student come up to the computer. Go ahead and unmute that microphone and have a student ask a question here for Mr. Dierdorf.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yep, we got you there, Coach.
One of the questions I think we have is, when you look at a high school team, in any team, you have captains that are elected and such. What are some of the character traits that you would see as somebody that's a true leader of your team? What are the types of things they physically do in other aspects of being a captain of a football team?
That's a great question, Coach. I was proud of the fact that I was a captain for the Cardinals for 10 of my 13 years in the league. And I always thought that maybe the best thing you could say about a player was that player, through his actions, whether that be his work ethic, his attitude, his support of his teammates, but that player made the people around him better. It's not everybody, but there are the occasional player that their presence elevates the play of the people around them. And to me, that might be the ultimate compliment you can pay a basketball player, a football player. I don't care what the sport, but your work ethic, your leadership skills, your motivational skills, your just by what you do, your teammates aspire to be more like you. That's a leader. That's someone who didn't read a book on how to be a leader. It is what it is. Your innate abilities and how you go about your business and how hard you try. I'm back to what I said at the beginning. To leaders, the question is, how important is it to you? And I think to someone who's a true leader, a true captain, the answer to that is it's unbelievably important to me. And those people elevate everyone around them. And to me, that might be the best thing you could ever say about an athlete.
I think the coach stole my last question, so I have to switch it up here. So we're going to end with kind of a more fun, lighthearted question that we like to ask a lot of our Gold Jackets. I mentioned never played in a Super Bowl. So if you were given the opportunity, would you trade your Gold Jacket, your K Jewelers Ring of Excellence, for a Super Bowl ring?
No.
Plain and simple. Plain and simple.
No, I would not. There is, and you know, the funny part of it is when you see almost everyone when they're at the podium giving their speech, they realize the magnitude of what it means to be a member of the Pro Football Hall of Fame. You know, there are guys with Super Bowl rings that never even played in the game. You know, they were they were a backup. They were just so. There are no backups in the Pro Football Hall of Fame. It is the most exclusive fraternity in my sport. No honor can even come close to this. And no, I would not trade my Gold Jacket or my Hall of Fame ring for anything.
That's a great way to wrap up this latest installment of the Pro Football Hall of Fame's Heart of a Hall of Famer series, powered by our great partners at Extreme Networks. Mr. Dierdorf, I want to thank you so much for taking time out of your day to participate in this event. You know, I'd like to say, thank you for everything you've done for the game of football, just like John said, and thank you for everything you've done for us here at the Hall of Fame, especially for us, to those who are from the Canton area. We greatly appreciate everything you've done. I like to say the game of football wouldn't be like it is today without our Hall of Famers' influence, and that goes true for you as well. So thank you so much for giving your time today. Thank you so much for everything you've done for the game of football and everything for the Hall of Fame.
Thank you, Jacob, and thanks to everyone today for taking part. Stay safe out there, be careful, and God bless all of you. Thanks for being with me today.
All right, everybody, thank you so much for tuning in. Stay tuned to all the great stuff we have coming out here at the Pro Football Hall of Fame on all of our social media channels. The Mission Podcast, hosted by our great friend Jameer Howerton. Make sure you subscribe, like, follow, everything to stay up to date with all the cool content we have coming out. So with that, I'd like to, from myself, Nathan, Jerry, John, all of our staff here at the Pro Football Hall of Fame, thank you so much for tuning in today. Again, thank you so much for being a part of this program. And that's going to wrap it up for this installment of the Pro Football Hall of Fame's Heart of a Hall of Famer series, powered by Extreme Networks here on Facebook. Thank you, everybody.